Hello and welcome to the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. Today's Thursday, May 11th, 2023. So at 11 o'clock Eastern Time this morning, Stronghold Digital Mining had its Q1 2023 investor presentation. I will link to resources and to the presentation itself in the description, so you can go through that material yourself. I am contemplating creating an entirely separate video where I highlight some of the things in the presentation that I thought were very noteworthy, but I wanted to just zoom in on one particular item that was part of the presentation. So this morning, I'm kind of going through the press release, and it feels right like, imagine a person who has a lottery ticket, right? Not that I don't really play the lottery in that sense, but I mean, just imagine with me here. And let's assume you need to match, I don't know, like 5 numbers plus a special number to win the jackpot, right? So as I'm going through this press release, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got the first number. I got the second number. The third number, oh wow, this can't be true, right? The fourth number, the fifth number, this is it, I'm going to be a winner. And then it's like you look at that final number and it's like, it just wasn't what I was, hoping for, right? Now, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that winning, right, or getting, 5 numbers, like that's going to entitle you to a heck of a prize, right? In some lotteries, I think it could be upwards of $1 million even. I mean, it could be quite lucrative, right, to get most of the numbers and just miss like one number. But that's kind of how I felt this morning. I'm like, man, everything just looks amazing, right? On so many fronts. The one number that kind of struck me as being a little bit off was our adjusted EBITDA, okay? Now, when I had finally a chance to kind of dig really deep into the numbers and just to really fully understand what was going on, I was reminded of a research note I wrote myself, actually, this past January, I think it was January 20th, where I was kind of like already foreseeing a situation where, hey, if grid prices remain as depressed as they had been up until that point in the month of January, and we had a situation where we really didn't have the mining capacity, right? We didn't have a lot of Bitcoin mining machines through which to generate revenue. We'd probably have a much lower revenue number than could be useful, right? So sure enough, we're exceeding our guided expectations, or rather our guided, not expectations, but our guidance of like 3 exahash for 2023, but probably we're gonna get all the way up to 4, it looks like, by the end of the third quarter, or at least that's what it's looking like. And we're very, very rapidly moving towards a situation where we can really get back to full mining capacity. Remember, we basically eliminated a lot of debt, a tremendous amount of debt late last year, by giving back a substantial portion of our Bitcoin mining machines. So that's okay to do when grid prices are quite strong. And so, of course, in Q4 2022, grid prices were exceptionally strong. Now, typically, grid prices will remain strong through the winter months. So, January, February, March, that would have been, right, Q1 2023. However, natural gas prices, which tend to be the leading indicator, so to speak, of what grid prices might look like, at least in our portions of the PJM grid, those numbers really started to go down, right? So natural gas prices really came down, which in turn resulted in grid prices themselves not really being their more natural elevated selves, but rather quite depressed. So that created an interesting situation where, okay, we couldn't necessarily generate a lot of revenue selling electricity to the grid to tide us over while we slowly rebuilt our Bitcoin mining fleet. Instead, we had to practically rely almost exclusively on what relatively little Bitcoin mining equipment we had at our disposal to generate revenue. So when I wrote the research note in, I think it was like January 20th of this year, and you can find that in the description to this video as well. There's a link to those notes. I was already foreseeing a situation where, hey, our revenue may not really be conducive, right, if this pattern continues, and the pattern being, really low grid prices. And then, at the time also, Bitcoin pricing was quite depressed. So, we're kind of being hit by a lot of different things at the same time. So all of that being said, to have generated, right, an adjusted EBITDA number of I think it was like 3.9 million to the negative. In that context, actually, when I looked specifically at our core expenses, fuel, operations and maintenance, and general administrative, those numbers were incredibly low. Like, we really did an amazing job of handling the things within our control. I did some preliminary math, and it looks, preliminarily speaking, that our net cost of power in Q1 2023 was just a little bit above $40 a megawatt, which is like fantastic. So if we are able, right, to slowly but surely, as we are now doing, rebuild our Bitcoin mining fleet so that we can actually generate more revenue. Because remember, it's like you can have tremendous margins, but stuff like fuel costs, general and administrative, and operations and maintenance, those three numbers in particular are incredibly important, right? Like you can't really sidestep handling those types of expenses. So when you have a scenario where you're just not generating as much revenue as you otherwise could, if you had, for example, a fully deployed data center, both at Scrubgrass and Panther Creek, well, then you're going to run into a situation where, you're going to incur a little bit of a loss. Now that I understand what happened and what's going on, I'm like totally fine with everything. Because remember, we're looking at a lottery ticket here, at least from my perspective, where like I got the 5 winning numbers, and then it's like, hey, wait a minute, I just need one more number for the jackpot, and that was the one number that was a little bit askew. I picked up some shares today. I mean, I think our stock got down as low as, I don't know if it was like 80 somewhat. Let me hold on a second. Let me see if I can see what our actual intraday low was. Yeah, a low of 77 cents a share. I mean, that's pretty darn low. I think I picked up my shares at around 82 cents a share or something like that. I do anticipate we're going to engage in a reverse stock split at some point in the very near future here. I'm not sure what the timing of that announcement will be, but I am incredibly satisfied and quite pleased with our Q1 2023 performance. Just on so many fronts, we're making incredible progress. I mean, we were written off as being essentially bankrupt. We were written off for, proverbially speaking, being dead, right? So the fact that we're still here, we're okay, we're generating useful revenue. We're very, I think, in a very, I like that term, like in a very capital efficient way, we're rebuilding our mining fleet. Quite quickly, it seems, right? More and more. All of those things are awesome. As we get into the warmer summer months, it's, I think, reasonable to anticipate that there could be an uplift in grid prices, which again is a really nice backup source of revenue that we're able to tap into. And hopefully we'll start to see a situation where Bitcoin itself can consistently begin to gain some footing and to start moving higher and higher and higher and higher. I mean, there are so many reasons why I think Bitcoin has a really promising near-term future. But that's going to be beyond the scope of this particular video. At this juncture, bottom line, Q1 2023 was awesome, all things considered. We do need to generate some more useful revenue. We're in the process of giving ourselves the tools, meaning the Bitcoin mining machines through which to do that. So I'm excited. We're in the middle right now of Q2 2023. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how we do this particular quarter. And I think it's going to work out a little bit better, but we'll just have to see. Again, this is a tough business sometimes, but I am incredibly pleased and satisfied with what I discovered as a result of reviewing our Q1 2023 results. Okay, all of that being said, let's stay positive, let's be great, and we'll see each other again tomorrow.